his heater's going to affect it. But let me just test the microphone now. Alright, this should work now. I think. Alright, let's see. Testing the mic. Alright, that sounds good. That sounds fine. We're going to throw up some video today. And should have the game up. Yep. Okay, and then hide video captions. Is that what we wanted? No. I thought we had it. It was not on. Activate. I don't have my hat on today. Oh well. It's working. I don't know if it's working. Video today. Franchise comes in here. I'll be able to see that I have that. Welcome in everybody. This is my third night streaming in a row. So that's exciting. Smiley, welcome in. Hello. Thanks for coming in here. If we get some more people in here, I'll give you a shout out. Also, I don't need to. I'm kind of testing the mic and I still have it in my ear. I don't know if it comes off like a echo. I know it sometimes can, but it really sounds like an echo for me. I'm talking and then I hear it right back. But so yeah, the stream today, I said I was going to do it yesterday based on a couple comments. Okay, cool. Thank you. Based on a couple comments, I was going to show a basic data set start for Perfect Team stuff. I don't know what tournament I'm going to use for this. Probably one that I don't have yet, just so I can kind of get some stuff. And my idea is I'll probably go for something like a gold only. I think we have some gold only somewhere. Yeah. So gold only, the reason I'm doing this for the data set. And I apologize if I cough. I'll try and mute it. I just have a cough and just super annoying. But yeah, the reason I'm doing gold only is because there's no combinators in gold only, so it's accessible to anyone that wants to play gold. Really, obviously, you still have to get the best cards or what you think is the best cards, and part of this will be finding out who the best cards are. So we're going to kind of go through just a basic setup of that, and then I'll probably do a 5L draft, maybe some base game stuff, but I'm probably not going to stream for a super long time here today. But this is the main thing I want to get done. I wanted to do some slides for it, but I don't have that yet. And so I feel like this team I need to improve. I don't like a lot of these guys. Well, I like a lot of them, but there's some that I don't want on this team anymore. I'll take a look at that roster eventually. Maybe we'll do it on stream tomorrow or something. I don't know how the Twitch affiliate stuff works, but apparently I just need one more day in this month to at least qualify to apply for it, and I think I have everything else, so we'll see. We'll see what happens, but maybe we'll have some kind of way to get that. I think we have everything set up now as far as what we need. Just gonna verify real quick. Okay. So, we're talking today about setting up a data set file. Today, at least how I started collecting data and analyzing it, I used Google Sheets, which everyone has access to Google Sheets, the website and everything. Not everyone has access to Excel. Obviously, you need like the Microsoft. I think you can get it monthly now, or just get. I don't even know how they come now. I think I just have like a monthly thing from Microsoft, where I can get Word and PowerPoint, Excel. You used to have to like get the big thing. It gives you it for I don't even know, forever, a year, something like that. But Google Sheets is accessible to everyone. No, I've tried to kind of Microsoft 365. Yeah, something like that. I think I have it through work, so I don't have it personally, but I might. I don't even know. I think like $5.99 a month or something like that. But anyways, Google Sheets, it is available to everybody, which is kind of why I started it, because I can share it online with everybody. They can look, because I don't care too much to save my own data to myself or keep it. And there's some people that will share their data, or they'll just share snippets of their data. There's a lot of people that do modeling and stuff. I could get into more of that probably, but I don't want to. I do want to do some more statistical stuff, because that's what I studied in college, and just kind of doing that more kind of would be exciting. But it's been a while, so I'd have to relearn a lot of stuff. I don't really have the time for that right now. And I said it yesterday, I want to keep the game a game and have it fun. And I don't want to do too much work, too much unnecessary work. I do want to win, and so I'll do data sets and everything like that. But I don't really care too much about modeling. It's the predictive versus the results based stuff, and I usually go for the results based stuff, just because it's easier to see, and it's easier to set up for anybody. So if you're watching this, it's pretty easy to set up, even if you're not super familiar with this kind of stuff. But I'm gonna go into kind of everything, but we're not gonna get like a super detailed sheet right now. But this is more so like, if anyone wants to get into this kind of stuff, they can, and then they can expand upon on how they want it. I do have a Discord. It only has a couple people, and it's not really set up right now, but I do share templates in there. I know Smiley Face has used the template as well. I'm not sure how many that she made copies of, and how many tournaments keeping track of, but yeah, I put that out there for people to use. You're going to see that you need kind of the same export to use these templates, which I eventually want to get like not like a copy, but can you share an export? So this is my big one that I've been using. I'm not going to use that today, but this pretty much takes all the counting stats, batting, pitching, and defense. You can't tell on the screen what they are. You can, I guess, if you go over that. But so this one I've been using in Excel, and you can do it this way in Google Sheets. It might. Sorry. So you might. It might just cause a really big file. But this has everything, and yeah, obviously it's not friendly on the eyes, but when you do the report, which we'll go into, there's the disk and the CSV options that you can do. Excel will use more of the CSV. Excel's kind of hard to share. Some of the pop-ups don't show on the stream, from what I understand. So I'm just going to keep it with the Google Sheets and this disk one for today. But just know there's a way to do it in Excel, and it's super quick. So you save the CSV, rename them, put them in a folder, and you load the data into the folder in Excel. I watched Extaforus's modeling 101 stream. I didn't get like too far into it because I was like, okay, I don't want to do most of this stuff. I don't care on a lot of it. I mean, I do, but I don't care to do it. A lot of it's modeling, just kind of like, okay, this person's gonna face, these people will face 66% of right-handed batters or something like that. It's just like, you can kind of, you're gonna face more righties in general. I don't need to know that. But then it gets into like different stuff rates and what the predictive stuff is, and it's all really cool stuff. But it's something that not everyone can do. I feel like I've done stuff like this before, and I even had a hard time just kind of starting it up. So we're gonna stick with the Google Sheets here, and we're kind of go everything from scratch. So what you do is you take a tournament. I'll just kind of go back to the tournament list, and we'll kind of start it. This will be our starting point on what we're doing. So you're saying, hey, I want to see how my players are doing in a certain tournament. For this example, we're going to use the gold only. Using the gold only, I did explain it a little bit. It's going to be weird. So I did explain it a little bit on why I'm using gold only. That's just because it's a non-combinator tournament, and it is more accessible to people. One thing that I've been doing that I hope to build out more, I don't know, it might be a start of the next year thing, but it's to get all the start times for tournaments and see when they fire off, see when they normally fill up, and kind of find out a way to optimize that. So I took some data. I don't have it on this computer right now, but I took some like gold stuff, and I'm just kind of like, okay, this one fires up then, so I can wait. I can sign up to this one, wait, and that kind of stuff. So the gold only is really hard because it fires off 11 my time and 1 a.m. I think Eastern. And if we do good in it, it means that I can't really sign up for more tournaments. So it's a bit of a hard one to place. I'm still kind of trying to figure that one out. But I can at least, I believe, sign up for 5 a day now, like daily tournaments. Yeah, yeah. The late one didn't fill super fast today. It took about, I want to say like 5 or 6 hours to fill or something like that. The late one starts at 11 a.m. I think, or 9 a.m. something like that. The All Star Hardware fires off at 5:30 a.m. my time. Low gold is 7 a.m. if I remember correctly. The late gold is 9 a.m. and then the live gold is 1 p.m. The gold cap is 8:30, something like that, and then the gold only is 11. But yeah, that's one thing that I want to figure out, is just kind of when stuff normally fills out, because then you can be like, okay, I have time for this one. And yeah, it's an ongoing process, and with it being so late in the cycle, I don't know if it's worth it, but if I can do it quickly, it might be. So, little tangent, which I always get on, but yeah, so the gold only, we're going to take that one. 99 run environment with a DH. The park is pretty similar on both sides. There's a little right-handed power and average boost, but where it's this close, I don't care too much. That's what, like a 4% difference, and who knows of it. But yeah, it's only gold cards, so we can look at just only gold, no combinators, so everyone can get into it. So we're gonna go back to January 12th, which I think I had one on the 15th. But normally I would kind of just go like oldest to newest. But where I don't even know if I'm going to be in gold only that much. But we'll kind of see. But here we see I lost 3 games to nothing in to Oxford Rebels, who are one of the better gold teams, even in a non-combinator situation. But like I said, I kind of want to change this roster. But so what we're focused on here is seeing who is the better players. You can also do this with team data, which I do have an export for. So it has, games, runs allowed. You can see this is a team that scored 0 runs and gave up 218. So that's one of your traditional Gym Unknown teams. So you can put a filter on to take them out or something like that. But we're not going to worry about the team one right now. But just know that you can use a similar format to collect team data, and yeah, and so the Gym Unknown teams are really, they suck. I hate them. Looks like there's only one in this tournament, which is nice. Yeah, there's only one tournament, this Anaheim Wild. So if you take them out, then that should give you some better data team-wise and player-wise. So what you usually need to do for it is you need to take out like their team and then whoever played them, which luckily there's only one team. They played, in this case, the Tam Ganders. So the thing that sucks is you lose the data from Tam. So if they went on to the finals, you would lose all that data. But if you want to normalize it in a smaller data set, then you can do that. And the way to do that is just kind of take out those filters, use those filters. There's probably a better way to do this. I put in all the team names. There's probably a better way to do this, but that's just an example. We're not going to get too much into it, but it's something that you can do and probably should do with the smaller data set. When you get bigger data, it kind of just all works out. But if you're just kind of taking one through 5 tournaments or something like that, it's gonna mess up the data a little bit, because whoever's playing them, obviously you see against them, there's 2 home runs for Springer, 10 for 12 from Hickman, 14 RBIs from Springer. It's gonna make these players look a little bit better. So my suggestion is probably take them out and you can do it this weird way. And so you would just, in this example, I guess we'll just kind of get into it. In this example, you would just take these two teams, Anaheim Wild, and then Tam Ganders, and then they disappear from the list, and then you have better team data. You can do the same thing on the players. So you would go to player statistics and then sortable stats, and then you can throw a team filter on there as well. We're not going to do that right now, but that's what you would do, is you just kind of go to team does not contain those specific teams, and then you won't have any players that have been involved in a Gym Unknown game, which can be helpful for collecting actual real data that means something. So we're not going to use this big data set here. We're going to make our own. So the way to do this is you just take this, there's these different exports here that you can do. So what we're going to do is we're going to customize this, and for this purpose we're going to clear all, and then you kind of just get to decide what you want in the data. Tag controls usually is good to have on, just because you can, I mean, it doesn't matter too much, it just adds this little bubble, the little button. Position is nice to have so you can filter it. But yeah, with the Gym Unknowns, it's a good way to get them out. Unfortunately, the only way to do it is manually. So you just have to remove the teams that that played them or are the Gym Unknown teams. And when you have like 10, it can get really tedious and annoying. When you have one here, pretty easy. Like you can take 2 teams out and you're good. But when you have 10, then you have to take the 10 teams out that are the Gym Unknowns and the 10 teams out that played them, and you're losing a lot of valuable data, I think. Especially if you know one of the better players might be using one of those cards, and you want to use them, but you don't even know. So it's a tough one, but I would say the smaller the data set, the more worth it is to take them out. I have not been doing that too much, but I take a lot of data, at least recently. So we'll see. Especially for the Team 1-2. I think that one gets more, well, they both make a lot of sense. So here, we're going to take name. You can take team. It doesn't matter too much. I like to take the bats and throws. So right now we're setting up we can do, so one thing also that you can do, I do have name here. There are going to be some tournaments where you have players that are under the same name. So, for example, if you're playing an open tournament or something, or like a live plus sort of tournament, you're going to have players like maybe a Chris Sale. You're going to have people use the live Chris Sale, and you're going to have people use the PT Elite Chris Sale, or you might even have the Silver Chris Sale. And so the hard part about name is it will filter all of those Chris Sales into one. When you have certain tournaments, like a gold only tournament, there's not usually going to be 2 gold cards of the same name. There could be. I think there's a couple, but some of them are just not going to be playing in the tournament, so you're a little bit safer. Another way to do this would be, instead of using name, you can come down to miscellaneous info, and use the PT card title. And you can set these in any order you want. It doesn't matter too much. But if you're worried about sort of same names, different cards, then the title is good to use. You can have both and just filter it by that. But I've been using the title lately for live tournaments. Obviously, like if you're collecting live tournament data, just use the name. But if you're using non-live and especially if you're playing cap, because you're gonna have maybe people use like a 99 diamond Dave Steve, but you're gonna have also people using the 40 Dave Steve, and that's a hard one, right? Like if you take just the name, it's gonna include both Dave Steves. So the safest way, and what I've been doing lately, is just using the card title. So that's what we'll do here. You can use name, but just know that you might have. When I started collecting data earlier, just as an example, there was the Diamond Albert Pujols, and then there was the Mission Reward Perfect 100 Albert Pujols, and I just saw Albert Pujols in there, and I don't know which one did what. So now there is another way you can do it, and that's to take sort of the name and this PT, where is it? Is it general? I don't use this one, so I don't know what it is. Overall, that's probably, yeah. That's. I feel like there was a different one. PT card value. Yeah, that's the one. So you can do it and filter it and combine the value. The best way to do that is probably to make your own field. It's not great, but I would suggest using the title for anything but live tournaments, unless you just know for a fact that you're not going to get any duplicate names. So that's a lot on the names. So recommendation, go title. Live tournaments, go name. Because the titles are long. You don't want them in there, but sometimes it's necessary. And yeah. So we're setting up a batting export now. So we have kind of the details of the player. So I'm going to care, I could take the throws out, but I just keep it in there. But I can take the player and I'll do the bats, right? So I can put a filter on that later, which will show me all right-handed batters or all left-handed batters or all switch hitters, and just kind of get the data for each of those too, which is kind of cool. So I keep that. Nothing else here. I don't think I need. You can take whatever you want. Like if you want to look at, if your goal is to just look at how height affects players at first base or somewhere else, you can take height and you can just kind of build your data on that, take some defensive stats, and then you can say, hey, my 6'4" guy is doing better than my 5'11" guy, which should happen based on what the game says. So they're just kind of interesting things that you can do. Not a lot of this will be useful. You can take overall. You can take ratings if you want to look at sort of maybe a stat versus a rating. So you can say, hey, my player has a 310 average, but their BABIP is 60 or something like that. Then you can be like, okay, maybe they're just getting lucky or whatever. But so that's what we're kind of going into now. So we have all this general data. We're fine there. You can add batting ratings as we talked about before if you're just kind of looking at specific things. You can also use them as filters. So if you only want to look for players that are 80 or above on their power rating or something, you can throw a power rating filter on there and it will show you only cards that have had the 80 power rating, which can be useful if you're just kind of looking, but I think the stats do a good enough job telling you that. So what we're going to come down to is the batting stats. So we have tag controls, which we don't need, but I just keep it. Position, card title, bats and throws. I think that's enough for a batter. So then you just kind of take what you want here. And we're going to do a really simple one here today, but you can take whatever you want. But what I want to get today is just sort of, I just want to start a little basic file, and then people can custom, if they watch this, they can customize it to whatever their liking is. Or you can join my Discord, or just hit me up on Discord. I'm in the main one, or in some of the other affiliate channels, affiliate Discords. Hit me up there, and I'll share a template with you, or my export settings and everything like that. And the more you take, the more obviously is going to fill up a sheet. But sometimes it's you want that. So there's a lot of stats here. The main ones you want to get are the counting stats, right? Because the way that we're going to do it, we're going to be able to calculate any rate stats based on these. You can take, like, you can go real lazy. I don't know how well it will work, but you can take like an average of batting average or OPP or something. You can do it. I don't suggest it, but you can do it. It might give you like a small idea of it. Might not be the correct calculation, but it's gonna be comparing the same stuff against other people, and might, I wouldn't suggest doing it. But for this example, we're gonna take. I'm trying to decide how simple I want to go here. So let me see. How simple do we want to go here? I feel like what I want to do is yeah. Okay, that's what I'll do. I'm going to do just kind of your basic rate stats that people look at, the slash line. We're going to be doing, so what all we need? We need at bats for sure and hits. This will give us our batting average here. On base percentage, we're also going to need walks, hit by pitch, and I believe sacrifice flies. Yeah, sacrifice flies. And that should do it for on base percentage. And then slugging percentage, we just need to add total bases. And that should be it. And then what I'll also do is I'll grab war here just to show that as well. So this will be my data here. Now with this, there's no filters on. Now what you can do here is you can take your filter and you can save it, enter a name such as test export, save it as local, And then every time you come in here, you can go to your different exports that you have, and it'll pull this up. You can also add filters on here, which I do like to do. Especially for like no DH tournaments, I like to do it. So I'll go to like batting stats where plate appearance is at least 1. And so what this will give you is every single player that has had a plate appearance in this tournament. Without like meaningless 0 data. So it will filter it a little bit. Obviously, it stays on, so if you do multiple exports, like a batting versus a pitching versus a defense or whatever you want to set up, you can have multiple of them. You can you just need to take this filter off. So for example, I have one that does the pitchers. So I'll have where is it? No, pitching stats. Where is it? Okay, I'll have batters faced at least 1, and so I can just kind of go through this, and this will give me all my pitchers. Obviously, we're gonna have all zeros because we're taking batting data right now, but that will help, especially to show. The biggest help that these filters will have is showing batters that pitch and pitchers that bat. So two-way players usually is the best way to, or the best thing to get with these filters, because otherwise the option is to go position and kind of go all batters, all pitchers, but then it could miss some of those two-way guys. So this is just the way I like to do it, and it filters it so I don't get any. I'm not seeing like a bunch of zeros in this. I know everyone here has at least 1 plate appearance. And you could even go further and just say, okay, these players aren't used a lot, so I want, every player that has 20 get more, maybe more used players and everything like that. But I feel like 1 is good because you still get data and everything. So the next step that we're going to do, we have our export, we have what we want, we have everything we need for average on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, on base plus slugging percentage, and then we have WAR. So what we do now is we come over and do report. And if you're doing Excel, I mean, you can do it on both, but it's really slow with the CSV for Google Sheets, because you have to save a file, open the file, copy. It's just kind of a thing. But if you write the report to disk, it will pull up this data in your browser window, whatever your default browser is. And I can switch that. Okay. So here's the data here. So it'll show us our position. It'll show us the title of the card. Someone with the titles. I mean, look at this one. This one's super long, so it's not super friendly. So if you, in a case like this, you can use the name. I don't think there's players that are going to be used twice with the same name. I could be wrong, but like for example, I don't know if he's used here. Yeah, Juan Gonzalez. So Juan Gonzalez has 2 cards that are gold, and if someone was to use the other Juan Gonzalez, they would all get lumped in together if you just use the name. So using this, you see all the T4 episode 15 ones. Those are the only ones used, but yeah. And then some cases you'll have I mean, he's not a gold, but for example, Aaron Judge live versus Aaron Judge historical card in the same tournament, that kind of can mess it up. I don't think there's any. Shane Mack has 2 cards, but one's a diamond. Same with Willie Mays. So I would say you're generally safe to do it by name, but use caution, and especially early on in cycles if there's multiple cards, because people still might be using the out of date cards, versus here where everyone's pretty much using the better cards and everything like that. So um, just be cautious with it. Use the name if you don't want these long ones, but just kind of realize that some cards might have duplicates and go off of that. So you have this data now, and so what you can do is just do on a Windows Control A and Control C, on a Mac Command A and Command C. So that will copy everything from this list, and then you'll throw it into a spreadsheet. And this will be your data spreadsheet. So we can just call it test data. And then what I like to do is Control Shift V will do the what's it called? The format matching. So you can expand all these to. The title will make it ridiculous, but and then it always includes like this last like the date for some reason, just like today's date. So you can take that off and then make the positions not ridiculously big. So this is your data here. And then you can take off these first 2, and then you can keep these as your column headers. Just for looks, I like to just center everything, but you don't have to. And so what you can then do is you can you now have all the data in this sheet, this Google Sheet. You have your, you can rename this to data or whatever you want to call it. I usually use I don't even know. I think I go like a batting data. And so then what you can do is you go to insert and you do a pivot table. Actually, what I like to do, you don't have to, but I just highlight everything here and I insert a pivot table, and this will give me everything from columns A through K. It's just kind of a simpler way to grab all your data, and then you have it in a new sheet. Otherwise, it just gets really ugly. So if you create it in a new sheet, it will open a blank pivot table for you. And nope, that's not what I want to do. So we can rename this maybe to batting stat. Just something similar, like simple like that. And so when you're collecting data, you can then go and the main thing that you probably want is the title in the rows. So this will give you, the title of that card. It's going to be ridiculous because it's a title. This is why the name is usually better. At least looks better. But for this one, we'll use the title because why not? So this will give you the list. Right now, it just sorts it by the title, which is the first letter of it. And then you can do some things here. So the values is where we're going to be calculating statistics and everything like that. So you can also do multiple rows. I don't like to do multiple rows. Oh, and I actually forgot one thing. I'm not going to do it this time, but, well, actually, I didn't forget one thing, because in other tournaments you have to a point. I don't know what I'm trying to say. You have to account. That's what I'm looking for. You have to account for combinators. So you need to come here, and usually the best is PT combinator level. You'll add that, and then have that on your export, and then you can add that. I like to add it to a field. I combine like the name and the combinator level usually, and that will give me, all the players that are of that combinator. I'll do that at a different time with a combinator tournament, but we don't have to worry about that right now. So what we now have here is we have our title, and this is going to grab every stat from whatever that title is. So however many, it uses 5 Joe Adell's Throwback Series. It's going to grab all those and just kind of have it in this list here. And so what I can do then is I can add a value. I can take, if I wanted to see all at bats for one of these players, I can take a sum of all the at bats. The other ones, you can play around with it. You don't really, I mean, there's not a lot of cases that you'll use some of the other ones for, I think, like average at bats. Like you can see how many average at bats a person will have in a tournament. Interesting thing to look at, I guess. But the sum is what you'll use mostly, and you can name this, whatever you want. And so now we have at bats for all these different titles. So you can see, you can also come down to this title here. So the row, you can set it to descending and sort by at bats. So you can see here the most used batter is this Johnny Bench catcher card with 804 at bats. And then the Boog Powell 762, and then no one's actually real close to that. The Murphy Carter. So it's just kind of interesting to look at. Like if you want to just look at most used players, you can come to at bats or plate appearances and that sort of thing, and get that. So the next things we're gonna want. I mean, you can grab more totals if you want, but the totals aren't going to help you too much because there's just going to be different usage. Like if you see Ben Ogilvy has 50 hits, no, he's got 50 out of 211. But if you see, Bip Roberts has 50 hits, he's got 50 out of 87. Not 50 hits, it's going to look way better, but it's just going to show 50 hits, and you're going to have to look at other stats to determine what makes sense. So we have the at-bats here. So that's great. We don't need it. We can look at it. Usually I'll have games and at bats or plate appearances just to kind of see who's used a lot. Plate appearances is usually the one I will filter by just to see what cards are used, which can be helpful if you're building a team just to see what everyone else is using. And if you're not using them and it's a widely used card, then maybe you should be. So that's always an interesting thing there. There's a lot you can do with it, but so then we want to get a batting average for these players, and so we don't collect the batting average, but we can do this calculated field here on the pivot table. And so batting average is just so you need an equal sign for the formula. Batting average is just hits divided by at bats, and you get this here. You can rename this field, AVG for average, and then decide how you want this formatted. So I usually like to come to, I like to take the whole column, go to format, and then number, and I have this custom one here. You can go to a custom number format and you can just say how you want it. So I like to have it just dot and 3 decimal points. So I'll apply that and it will give me, a standard looking batting average. So now you can see your most used card has a 323 average. So it's just kind of interesting stuff to look at. And then you can just go to line and you can, like from before where we sorted by at bats, you can now sort by batting average. It's going to give you some weird things. You can filter, you can create a filter on this to, filter it by players that have, greater than 100 or something. So if you, create a filter, you can come to this at bats thing here, and then you can do a condition is greater than or equal to 100. And this is going to show you all the people with at bats over 100 and their batting averages. So you can find whatever number you like to kind of, judge your data. If you want to just get players that are 300 or over, you can. And then you can just remove filter, right click remove filter if you want to get rid of that. So that's just an extra thing there. So we have our batting averages. We can go ahead and we can add more values. On base percentage is, it's what, hits plus walks plus hit by pitch divided by at bats plus walks plus hit by pitch plus sacrifice fly, I believe. So this will now give you your on base percentage. You can come and use the same number formatting on it, and then you can see we're just going to go by the at bats again. So you can see now what the average and on base percentage are for Johnny Bench. And we can go further. The next thing we'll do is slugging percentage. And that's just going to be total bases divided by at bats. Come here, same format. And there we go. We have, I like this centered, but you don't have to. So it just kind of makes it look better. You can, play around with like the different looks of it and everything like that. Just kind of personalize it yourself and whatnot. And so now we have at bats, average, OBP, slugging. We can get that slash line for all their players there. You don't have to do everything in a pivot table. For example, like if this is all you want here and you just want it to print out like an actual slash line. I don't know. I don't do this, but you could go, like average and then add a slash and OBP and slash oh, I messed that up. So I guess this will not take our 3 decimal places. So maybe not as friendly on that side. You probably have to do some extra stuff with that. But that's just an example of what you can do, right? Like you can do and the slugging percentage. I don't need it to do all that, but that will give you a slash line. We would obviously need to fix the decimal places, which I don't think you can with the text format. So just an example of things you can do. You can take data and you don't have to do everything on this page on the pivot table if you wanted to grab something else. Like if you wanted to grab, for example, the average at bats for everyone, you could do that instead of just taking this total. It'll give you the average on base percentage and slugging percentage in your tournament for all the batters. So that's interesting to see. Like you can see, the average batter in this gold only has a 312 average. And then you can look at other players and you'd be like, okay, Johnny Bench has 11 points higher batting average than the average of the tournament. So he's going to be a good card, right? Now this is just batting average, so take with it what you will. But you can do that with other things like Boog Powell, 414 on base percentage. Is that good compared to the average? And yeah, it's 28 points higher than the average OBP of your average gold only hitter. So we'll just add a couple more things. One thing a lot of people like to use is OPS, and now we don't have OPS. The best way to do this, I think, is going to be just you can do it outside of the pivot table, but doing it in the pivot table is always better. And so what you can do here is just kind of combine both of these. So you can just copy paste it and it will add this in here. So you have your OBP formula plus your slugging formula. You just want to kind of make sure parentheses. I think we're good here, but yeah. And then you can take, you can go back to the same format, or however you want to display it. I'm just kind of going through what I do, and then you can see OPS now. Bench, Carter have high OPSs. I think Springer. These are probably affected by the gym unknowns that we talked about earlier. But you can see the average 934 if you don't have to deal with gym unknowns. You can see, oh, well, Johnny Bench is way above average, or Gary Carter is way above average. This is a card I want to use, right? And so the next thing I will add, I like to have, is the WAR, because WAR is a pain in the butt to calculate in general. So we can just take the counting WAR from it. We can do a sum of it, and that will just give us this. You can do, yeah, it's all just kind of just one decimal place on it anyways. So we have the WAR now, and then one extra thing that, well, I can't do it now, but you can use that WAR in different calculated fields. One of the things that I like to use is WAR by 600. So what that would be is WAR divided by batters faced times 600, and that will give you a player's WAR per every 600, not batters faced, plate appearances times 600. We don't take the plate appearances this one just because we kind of just went for the simple formulas. But I mean, you could do at bats even, not as meaningful, but so now this will give you, more per 600 at bats, and you can look at that. You can, however many decimal places you want, and just sort of get that. So now you can see it more normalized compared to, you can see the 4.4 WAR, but Johnny Bench is the most used card, so his counting WAR, if he's a decent enough player, is going to be high. But for example, you can come down to like this guy, Ron Say, 3.1 WAR and only 339, and you can see his war by 600 bats is 5.49 compared to Bench, who's, I think has the highest war here, and he's at a 3.28. So based on sample size, if you have a lot of samples of each player, the war by 600 is going to hopefully tell you what player is accumulating more war than the other. War is an interesting one because it also includes defense. So Say, I believe, is a really good third base defender. So you just have to pick and choose what you're looking for, right? Like, I can see here, based on OPS, Bench has a higher OPS, but Say has that higher war. So you're probably thinking Say is probably getting a lot of that war from his defensive value, where Bench, his bat might look better here in this case. We also have like Jim Hickman, who's above both of them in OPS, but he's in the middle with the WAR by 600 there. And then you have a guy like Boog Powell, first baseman. You can't really go by the WAR by 600 because their defensive value doesn't include a lot of their defensive WAR at first base doesn't really do much to their overall WAR. Like, it doesn't pay a lot to be a good first base defender. You can have it, but it's not going to change your overall WAR too much. So with first base DH types, you want to look mostly at just OPS or whatever else you do. I usually use WOBA, and then OPS, and run created by 27 sometimes, or just runs created or weighted runs created. There's a bunch of different things you can look at. Whatever your favorite stat is and how you can get it in there, get it in there, and then you can use that, compare all these players and everything. Now, this is all the cards, right? And what we added before is we did add this position. We added the bats. So you can then add some filters if you want. So you can add a position filter. You can add a bats filter. And so then what this will do is it will give you the position of the card. You can clear it and only take one position. So if you want to look at just catchers, for example, you can just go catcher. And this will be, the defensive one is a little bit better. I believe. Oh, we lost a gold quick. Sad. So I believe, I just kind of want to test this out here. If you add you can add the defensive position. And this will tell you each game each player played at the different position. This one uses the numerical values. This is mostly useful for defensive stats if you're wanting to get that, like overall ZR or, framing, stuff like that. So this, 8 center field, obviously 9 right field, 3 first base. You can use this one, but so it would give you I believe this would get you each game that they played at their position, and then when you came to the filters, you would then position it by whatever number that is. So for catcher it would be 2, and then it would show you all the players who have played catcher, which can be helpful, but you might get less data at the positions, but you might see which players are playing which position more. So you can do that. I haven't done that, but I might want to, just to kind of see how it looks. Because if you use these position ones, this is just coming from their general data, right? So, for example, this Jim Hickman card, it's going to be using first base because that's what his position is. And if I set his position to left field, it's going to take him as a left fielder. So it can get a little bit weird with players that play multiple positions or that aren't listed at the position that they normally play. I try to keep them listed, at least on my team, at the position they play just for data purposes. So it might make sense to use the um, numerical position on the defense. I think it would make sense. But for now, we'll just keep the position. But I don't know. It should be. I don't know what it does with multiple when players have played multiple positions in a tournament. I actually haven't looked at that. We can do it now. We have time. So we can just have these positions by each other. So I mean, like for this, a listed player at center field, but he's actually playing right field. Listed at right, playing right field. Listed at center, playing right field. Trying to see. I don't know if there's a way to see if one is the same guy. I don't know. I guess we can add team, for example. So we would expect to see like the same team if we filter it by team, I guess. So yeah, this isn't a lot. This isn't something I've looked at a lot. This specific part of it, and a lot of players are not going to be moving around to a couple positions, but this should give us the data at what position they played. So it can be helpful to have like this, for example, his position is left field, but he was playing third base, and he is a third baseman, but they listed him as a. So the position they can get messed up a little bit. If you want to get what they're actually playing in the tournament, you can use the defensive one. Um, 0 is DH. I just kind of I wanted to see if someone was like on the same team playing multiple positions. Like if someone was a DH and a catcher, like bench, for example. I don't see any more Belmars. I'm sure Winnipeg. Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of a weird one. Do I have any players that play multiple positions? Alright, I have Boog Powell who plays first and DH. So we should be able to see that in the data. Assuming this collects it correctly. So I have Boog Powell here who plays first base. And then I should have another entry, which I don't. So for now, ignore this last previous part of the conversation because I don't. He had 13 at bats. Is that what he had? Maybe not. Ignore it. He might have just played against all righties, which doesn't help our data. We don't have anyone that played other positions, I don't think. Not manage cards. What are we doing? We want to go to tournament coverage. That's what we want. Round one. And so we faced. Oh man, we got killed here. Hernandez, did he start? No, it looks like their starters were Gullickson, Barker, and Reynolds. All righties, so we're not able to tell that. So I think we're good. Don't ignore that part. But I don't know. I don't know what it would do with players that are playing multiple positions for the same team. Like Hickman, it should. I don't know. Luckily, we've covered most of the stuff that we need, anyways. Kind of getting this random one. I'm just trying to think of what would be the best way to get this, because I'm not seeing duplicates. In here, but I'm also just looking at a ton of names. Because I know it can maybe get weird looking at just like both it can get weird looking at defensive stats mixed with batting stats. And I'm just not seeing players play multiple positions right now, which could be a bad thing for your overall data because you want to make sure you're getting. Oh, no. Why does this have two Andrew Jones? There must be two Cleveland teams, I guess. And this might use the most played positions. I kind of want to figure this out, but I also sometimes kind of don't want to. Is there a player on the most used team that plays multiple positions? I don't think so. I mean, a guy like Tyler Fitzgerald, I assume, has played. Yeah. Okay. This will be a good example. Palatine and Tyler Fitzgerald. He played 14 games at first, 2 at second, 5 at third, 3 at short, and 1 in left. He played a ton of positions. How's that going to look in the data? My guess is it's going to use whatever's the most played. But, okay. Palatine, Tyler Fitzgerald, 3, which he played mostly at first base. Okay. So this is going to list his most played position, which could be useful, but it might. And let's see, he had 48 at bats. We just want to make sure that he's not losing some of that stat. So he had 48 at bats overall, so that will grab everything. So if you want to get the most used position, use that defensive one. If you want to just go with the simple what position is listed on the card, then go with the general one. So that was a long discovery period on that. So I'm not going to do too much more with this, but we were talking about the filters. So you can filter by position, see who the best War by 600, which I like to use, is Gary Carter here, someone I would use. But then you just kind of have to look at the card as well. Like, you look at the Gary Carter, okay, he's used really well. Unfortunately, there's no split data that you can get. I do have a Gary Carter. This card, obviously, very good card, but his, lefties is what he's going to do. Like, you want him to play against lefties, not so much the righties. So, at least looking at the card, it tells you this is a platoon card, right? He's going to play against lefties, and he's going to do very well against lefties. It's hard to get the platoons on there, just because you don't have that split data in tournaments. I don't know why. I guess maybe it's just too much to calculate and everything. But yeah, just based on this, Deacon McGuire, he's a guy that I think, if I remember correctly, might get used against both. So maybe his 330 is a bit, against both. Where if you play Carter against righties too, you're probably going to be seeing that number come down. So generally, I think in this tournament, people are using Bench against righties and Carter against lefties. But then you can have, all these different ones. Tettleton is a newer card, so we might see him more in the data over time. But yeah, so that's just one filter. You can, like I said, I added another batting filter, and then you can also see, before I do a batting filter, you can also see in position. You can see the stats, and if you keep these totals on, which the show totals here will put them on and off. You can see the average WAR by 600 for a catcher. You can see the average OPS for a catcher and compare by position what you're expecting. Like, for example, catchers sometimes will have. I guess catchers aren't a great example. Sometimes you use more defensive catchers versus offensive, and if you can gauge based on the catcher's defense. You can also take catcher defense in a different tab. But you can gauge here what you're kind of wanting. So you see here 1061 OPS versus 1065. Pretty similar, but Carter has a lot higher, more by 600, and that might be coming from the defense on Carter. Carter's defense is very good blocking, framing arm, compared to someone like Bench, who's a bit lower in the framing, blocking, does have good arm. So just kind of have to gauge based on that. So that's an interesting one. And then, obviously those ones are above. And if you have someone maybe at average, but their defense might be really good, you can either eyeball it or take defensive data. Maybe you want to go with that, average catcher, and you feel better knowing that at least this catcher is an average catcher compared to, if you're using a defensive catcher, but he's someone that's got like a 500 OPS. You're like, oh, okay, that's probably not worth it. Or if you're saying like this guy has great offense, his defense isn't as good, you can look and say, okay, this OPS maybe is not, 987 for McGuire here. Maybe that's just right above average. If his defense isn't super good compared to another person, then maybe I just want to go with a little bit down on defense and a little bit more offense. And then, for example, you can come and go shortstop, and you're going to see the OPS for shortstops is a lot lower. So you can't compare a Johnny Bench 1,000 OPS versus shortstop. I mean, obviously some have it. Generally, you won't, and that might be just a Jim Unknown kind of situation there, which we talked about taking them out. But shortstops, you're going on a whole different scale, and you're saying, okay, well, this player is better than average compared to shortstops. But you don't need to get um, someone on average who's compared to. I don't need to compare a shortstop to a first baseman, for example, right? Like the average OPS for a first baseman is 992, which is over 100 points more. So for my first baseman, I'm going to want a higher OPS to stay on average. Versus a shortstop, I don't need as high. I'm going to look for defense probably, but I can also look for a guy that might have above average, like this Cal Ripken Jr., who's much above average. I believe he has good defense. Right now, the Marte, I believe, is just a gem unknown, but the Ripken would be, the best kind of guy, WAR by 600 wise. Um, so that's kind of how you look at it, and then you can take this. We'll go to the next filter. So you can have a couple filters. What you're looking for. Um, you can go by a condition if you're using a rating filter. So you could, if you have a power rating, you're looking at all shortstops who have a greater than 80 rating on power. How do they do? Just kind of that. Another thing I like to add at times is the bat short, as it's called in the filter. And you can look at all shortstops who are switch hitters. These are the two data points for switch hitters. If you're needing just a lefty, or if you're needing just a righty, I mean, most players I think are righty. You can do it by all positions and get all righties or all lefties, and you can build your lineups based on this. Like, you can even go first base. I think has a good mix of righties and lefties. So this is all your lefties. So your best lefty OPS guy looks like um, small data, but if everyone had similar data, you would take this Tino Martinez, right? Best OPS guy, but he's your lefty, and you can look at the card as well and just sort of go off that. And then you can go righty, and you want a platoon. Okay, I'm going to take this Tyler Fitzgerald or this Marte or Pierce, and you're going to use them as your platoon guy. Then there's also the switch hitters. So you just kind of have to look at the cards and know what they're about. But you can get everyone. You can get different positions. You could go, I just want to look at maybe second and short, and just sort of go the filters there. You can add as many filters or as little filters as you want. But these are the main two ones that I like to use. Mostly the position one, but the bats ones can help. And you can also look with the bat one. So you have all positions. You can go and look at just righties. And you can see in the tournament that righties have a combined 949 OPS, 1.95, compared to lefties who are 922. So righties are doing better in this tournament. Maybe it's just because the cards are better, but in general, the righties are having more success. And then switch hitters are 882, which there's not a lot of them, and I think some are shortstops too. So it's not super helpful, but you can kind of see. And then you can also see, righty or at bat counts. Righties had 11,000 compared to lefties who had 4,800. So you're saying, okay, I'm going to face a lot more righty batters, which is true. But then you also have to include switch. So add these switch at bats as well to both sides. So just kind of interesting to look at. And then you can do, obviously, if you come here, I have a couple set up. We changed the view. I'm not going to save it. But I have like a catcher defense export, and this will have all the catcher defense games. For this one, I like to just go position catcher, and that will filter all the games caught. You get framing, runners thrown out, catcher earned runs, ZR, errors, pass balls, and you can get that in a sheet, and you can calculate all of that stuff. So it's pretty interesting, all the stuff that you can do with this, but it's pretty simple. Like, getting into this, hopefully it made a lot of sense. I know I talk a lot, but hopefully it made a lot of sense, and you can get a lot of idea with just this basic data set, right? Like, you don't need a lot to at least know what cards to use. You have the at bats, so you probably want to get the guys with the high at bats in there, right? Like, a lot of people are not going to want to use the bad cards, so you could just build the lineup off who's the highest at bats, and if there's someone close, then you go by OPS or OBP or whatever you want, average, just the kind of players you're looking for. More by 600. Usually I like batters faced in this calculation, but for now we'll use at bats. But this didn't take very long at all to set up, and I can get a pretty good idea of a gold lineup here. Like, if I go through it, position by position, I probably want, Bench and Carter because they're the most used. I want to go first base, and I'll use Powell or Cooper. And then those are both lefties, so maybe I want to, I want a righty platoon guy, so I'll throw Hickman or Clark or Fitzgerald in there. And then so you can just go position by position. Second base, you want, on this one, you probably want, a player that's above average, which Morgan, Ellis, Whitaker, Allen all are. And then you can just kind of go to the card and see which one you like best, which one you want to use, which one you think will work best, use these stats and everything, and just kind of go from there. You can build your platoons, left and switch. This will get you everyone that's going to bat lefty against righties, and right and switch everyone that's going to bat righty against lefties. So it's just interesting. There's a lot of things you can do, and this is not a lot of data, but it's going to tell you. Like, if you take a couple of these, for example, so let's say this is a new one, you just control, and then you come to the data, and then the easiest way to get to the bottom is just control down arrow, and then you can do a control shift V here, and this is just a test. So, and then you delete these. You don't want to keep the titles. You can come control down arrow, and then you can get, this will double everybody, but now you have 2 tournaments worth of data in this example, and you can work off of that. So now you have, now bench is showing double what he has. So he has 1,600. And the more it bats, the more batters face, the more innings played, the more games, obviously, is going to make a difference. It's going to make your data more credible on everything. So, yeah, the more data you have, the better idea you're going to get of these players, right? Like this bench right now, 1,600, it's not super high. If it was maybe like 10,000, I'm like, okay, this bench is this level of player, right? He might have some tournaments where he does better or worse than it, but on average, you're going to get this kind of player. And if that's a good fit for you, it's a good fit for you. There's a lot of things we can do. Another thing that I like to do personally is I like to add a date or a week. In the data, you kind of have to do this manually. So if you just go, for example, we'll just go month or something. And so this is a tournament, you played in June. You can double click this. It will take it all the way down to June. This is L, so you can add now in this data an L, and that will add a new column, and now you have month, and you can throw month filter on there, and say, as your data changes over time, different cards are going to be used more, so you can get all the cards in tournaments that are used in June, and you add that filter, and then we'll just make one July. So this is the only card used in July, for example. So okay, I can look at, all right, these are the cards that are used in July. These are the cards that are used in June. Because if you have too much data, you're going to have obviously some players that are older that aren't used anymore that might show up as good, but they were playing against worse competition. So I like to include the date when I'm doing this just because just to get that recency bias, and you want the cards that are newer and better because they get better over time as Perfect Team goes on and everything like that. So that's what I like to do. But yeah, it's pretty much just that. You come here, you grab, you set up your filter, you save it, you write the report to disk, you come over here, you control A, control C, and then you do a control shift V, delete a couple things of data, and then you set up your pivot table. Again, which is just, you can take it, take the rows or the columns, insert pivot table, and add it that way. And then you can just kind of have fun calculating all the stats and everything. If you want to just take raw data or raw stats and just get counts of stuff, you can. Your best things to look at are going to be rate stats, but I do recommend something like at bats, plate appearances, to get that idea of what cards are being used. And then you can add dates. You can add different things to this. Yeah, of course, Bob Dombolina. Yeah, the pivot tables are not hard to use. I learned doing them from just some work I did with like player sim leagues, for example, the PBE, and tracking stats there. So that's just kind of been interesting, just learning on the spot. But It's not super hard to use, especially in Google Sheets. And there's a lot you can do with it. Your best thing is going to be rows. Rows as your player name or title. Your values are going to be your meat and potatoes, and then you can have filters to filter whatever you want. Like, for example, the what the player bats or throws in the case of a pitcher, um, and then you can just tailor it to what you want. Like, this one's super simple, but it's going to tell you what batters that you might want to be using, um, and you can continue to add more. You can go position by position. For example, like I have this catcher defense. You could do a whole one with you know just just a whole sheet of catcher stuff. Like, you can take batting ratings plus catcher defense stuff, um, filter it by position catcher, and then you're going to have a big catcher export that you could look at if you wanted to. But I like to just kind of have a bunch of stuff. If you do one of these, for example, you don't need a filter. It grabs everything. And if you look here, I mean, this is kind of ridiculous, but this will grab all defensive stats, all pitching stats, and you have to, um, with Excel, it renames the columns here. I don't, um, you probably have to yeah, like it takes forever to even copy this data. So I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you do Excel. But this is like a full on stats export, and then I don't know how long it would take to paste. We'll see. I'll just kind of overwrite everything. But this is going to grab all batters, pitchers. It's got card IDs, the title, team name, all this sort of stuff. But then with pitcher stuff, like you have home runs. This is the home runs that a pitcher gives up. So you're going to rename this column like pitch home run or P home run or something like that. And then you're going to need to use that in this. So we sort of messed this up, but that's just an example. But yeah, that's taking data, and I hope I see that it was helpful, at least to one person here. I'm going to upload this to YouTube as well, for anyone who catches this VOD and maybe it goes away. But I have to upload yesterday's YouTube, and I'll be doing this one. So yeah, set up some data, have some fun with it. You can do as much or as little as you want. If you want to just do name and war, you could do that too. You could do whatever you want. The pitcher one is, I should have probably done pitchers because it can be a little bit more difficult. And I feel like I kind of want to show that right now while I'm on here. Okay, where's pitcher stuff? Okay, the main thing I want to get with the pitcher side, at least the main thing I want to get across on the pitcher side, is innings pitched. Because the innings pitched goes 0.1 and 0.2. That's not how, I mean, that's how baseball works. 8 2/3. So it's thirds that you're taking in this column here. So to adjust for that, we have to go, we'll go to BD. I know it's going to mess up a lot of this stuff, but I don't know. Oh, that should help. Okay, so we have this pitcher innings pitched here now. So to adjust for the innings pitched, you need to have a formula that uses it. it's not the greatest. You can do it in the data or you can do it in the pivot table, but just know anything that uses innings pitched, you're going to have to use this. What you need to do is the best one is $D and then the name of your field, which is P_IP and 3. And so what this will do now, this should have worked, I believe. Position, I don't think we have all positions on. Calculate field 1. What do we do? Oh. At bat filter. I don't want an at bat filter. Or a title filter. Yeah, it messed everything up. Okay. So we can see that this fixed it here. Now. So this will now put it into thirds. It will help your ERA formulas and everything like that. I believe you would need to do like ERA is what? Earned runs times 9. What is it divided by? And then I think you can do $D PIP 3. That work? Maybe not. What is earned runs? Oh, I don't think, maybe we have to go out further. Where's earned runs? Oh, BN. So we'd have to go all the way back to BN. I'm just checking if this works. I haven't used this in the pivot table, but it looks like it does. Earn runs times 9. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this got messed up with this. This is what ERA, and then we'll throw a this is our innings pitched. And so what we want to do is grab this filter, and innings pitched we'll do greater than 50, for example. So this should get us ERAs. I believe this worked. Obviously this is super high ERAs, which I don't think is completely off. We can look at some ERAs, maybe. Like the offense is crazy. Another thing you can do is the batting data. For example, it's a little more tedious, but I don't really want to do it here. I won't do the full thing, but you can do like a fix IP, and this works. There's innings pitched in both catcher ERA or innings played, in defensive stats, catcher ERA, and pitcher stuff. So the innings pitch is pretty annoying, but you can also come here and do that same formula, $D PIP 3. Do we not have PIP? Is it not PIP? I thought that's what we named it. It is. Oh, well, okay. We actually want to, that would be, if we're doing it in the pivot table, we would actually replace this PIP with the value in BD. And then you can fill this out. And then what you would do is then you would take you would have this go all the way to EA Sports to the game. This is probably a bad example because it uses so much data, but you can then you can just have this as your new field and instead do earn runs per 9 divided by fix IP. And that did change them a little bit. So, I mean, it still comes in as high, but that might just be the tournament, really. Are people that bad? Like, Russ Ford, for example. Like, his ERA is 7.94 there. 7.62. So yeah, I mean, those actually seem right, which a 6.73 ERA for these pitchers combined is kind of crazy. But so yeah, that's another thing you can do. With this, I would probably say do it as a new data, and then what you have to do is every time that you put in new data, you just have to copy this formula. You just take this and just copy it over. The best way to do it is just grab it and double click this little thing on the bottom, and that will copy it across all your data. It's just an extra step, but it's one that's worthwhile and will help your calculations be more accurate. But yeah, that's the thing with pitchers. Other than that, pitchers are fairly simple. Other than there's a lot of more calculations usually you have to do. I like to get a lot on the pitcher side. I can show my live gold, which I haven't updated in a while. But for example, I take a lot of different pitcher stats here. This is live gold here. We have all this that we're taking. The pitcher data. And he's pitched with the fix in here. We have combinator level, which we don't need for this one, but yeah. Combinator name. If you're in a tournament with combinators, it can help to affix the combinator level to the name, and then you can just come in here, and in your row you can use your C name, which will give you all the different combinator level players and everything across. Not super useful for live tournaments or ones without combinators, but this is the way that I do it personally, I feel like it looks good with the spacing. You just use this and text formula sort of thing, and then that will help you see each level of combinators and everything like that. So, all right, I'm pretty tired now, but I hope it was informative. Like I said, reach out to me either on Twitch, like in a whisper thing, or on Discord. I am in there. My Discord name is like it's off. All right, I think it's back up now. It was down, but yeah, of course, Bob, happy to help. Hopefully this was informative. I believe Franchise Time Machine will be online now. I'm gonna go ahead and raid over to him. I think I have a couple viewers in here, so just like to do it anyways. And yeah, so enjoy your night, everybody. Everybody's come through. This is going to be on YouTube, so if you do want to watch this back, it will be in the VODs or on YouTube for ever. So have a good night. Thanks for checking in. I probably will not stream this weekend, but I think I will be streaming. No, on Monday I'll be on Franchise Time Machine's stream, I believe, playing a game. So I'm not sure when the next stream will be. We might do it sometime this weekend if I get time. But my plan is maybe Monday and then raid into Franchise early, or just do Tuesday. But yeah, thanks for coming out, hanging out. This is long exit, but I'm gonna start the raid now. Franchise Time Machine. Sending the 2 raiders over there in 5 seconds.